Before the pyramids pierced the Egyptian sky, before the Greeks contemplated philosophy, before Rome conquered the known world, there existed a civilization so advanced, so sophisticated, that their achievements still echo through the corridors of time. They called themselves the black-headed people. We know them as the Sumerians, and hidden within their clay tablets lies a story so extraordinary, so detailed, that it challenges everything we think we know about human origins. This is not ancient mythology. This is not religious text. This is something else entirely. Something that demands our attention. The year is 1849. A young British archaeologist named Austen Henry Layard plunges his shovel into the sand-covered mounds of ancient Mesopotamia. What he's about to discover will rewrite human history. Thousands upon thousands of clay tablets. An entire library preserved beneath the earth. But these weren't recipes or tax records. These tablets told stories. Stories of creation. Stories of gods who walked among men. Stories of humanity's origins. And when scholars finally deciphered their wedge-shaped script, they found something shocking. Detailed accounts that predated the Bible by thousands of years, yet contained strikingly similar narratives. The Garden of Eden, the Great Flood, the creation of mankind. All of it was there, written in clay 5,000 years ago. But the Sumerian versions contain something more, something specific, something that reads less like mythology and more like a record. To understand why their writings matter, we must first understand who these people were. Because the Sumerians didn't slowly evolve from primitive tribes. They appeared suddenly around 4,500 BCE in the fertile land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And when they appeared, they brought with them technologies that shouldn't have existed. The wheel, writing, mathematics, astronomy, agriculture, legal codes, school systems, medicine, the concept of time divided into 60-second minutes and 60-minute hours, the 360-degree circle, the 7-day week. Think about that. Every time you check your watch, you're using a Sumerian invention from 5,000 years ago. But their astronomical knowledge is where things get truly mysterious. The Sumerians mapped the heavens with precision that wouldn't be matched for millennia. They knew about planets that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. They understood concepts of celestial mechanics that modern science didn't rediscover until the space age. How? How did a civilization with no telescopes know these things? Their answer is written in clay, and it's not what you'd expect. In the Sumerian language, there is a word, Anunnaki. It appears again and again across thousands of tablets. Translated literally, it means those who from heaven to earth came. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, literally. According to Sumerian records, these beings descended from the sky approximately 450,000 years ago. They came from a planet called Nibiru. described as the 12th body in our solar system, traveling in a vast elliptical orbit that brings it near Earth once every 3,600 years. Now, before you dismiss this as ancient fantasy, consider this. Modern astronomers have been searching for what they call Planet 9 or Planet X, a massive, distant body whose gravitational effects seem to be influencing the outer solar system. Multiple peer-reviewed studies suggest something is out there. Could the Sumerians have known about it 5,000 years ago? The tablets describe the Anunnaki as master geneticists and engineers who came to Earth for a specific purpose: gold. They needed vast quantities of this precious metal, not for decoration, but to save their dying planet's atmosphere. For thousands of years, according to the texts, the Anunnaki mined gold themselves. The work was brutal, exhausting, and eventually they rebelled. This is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Faced with a labor crisis, the Anunnaki scientists, led by a figure named Enki, god of wisdom and water, proposed a solution. They would create a worker, a being intelligent enough to follow instructions, but designed specifically for labor. They would create us. The tablet called Atrahasis contains the most detailed version. It describes how the Anunnaki took the DNA. Yes, the text describes something remarkably similar to DNA from an existing hominid species on Earth and mixed it with their own genetic material. The text is specific, unsettlingly specific. It describes mixing clay, which scholars believe may refer to biological material, with the essence of the gods. It describes a process involving female Anunnaki as birth mothers for the first prototypes. After trial and error, they succeeded. The text says they created 7 males and 7 females, the first humans. Now, here's what makes this compelling. Mainstream science tells us that around 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans suddenly appeared in Africa. Not gradually evolved, appeared with significantly larger brains and different capabilities than our ancestors. Science calls it the Great Leap Forward, or the cognitive revolution. A sudden, unexplained jump in human capability. What caused it? After decades of research, geneticists still can't fully explain it. The Sumerian texts provide an answer: genetic engineering by an advanced civilization. Could there be evidence in our own DNA? In 2013, something remarkable was discovered. Scientists found that approximately 8% of human DNA appears to be from non-human sources, viral DNA that somehow integrated into our genome. But there's more. The human genome contains over 200 genes that appear nowhere else in the evolutionary tree. They exist in humans, but in no other primate or known ancestor. Where did they come from? Traditional science suggests horizontal gene transfer from bacteria. But the Sumerian texts offer another explanation. The Sumerians demonstrated knowledge of genetics that seems impossible for their time. They practiced selective breeding. They understood heredity. Their medical texts describe blood types and genetic inheritance. And they left us symbols, like the intertwined serpents of Enki, which bears an uncanny resemblance to the double helix of DNA, discovered by Watson and Crick in 1953. Coincidence? Or did they know something we're only now rediscovering? But if the Sumerians recorded the truth, why was this knowledge hidden? Why did it become mythology instead of history? Around 2000 BCE, Sumerian civilization began to collapse. Invasions, climate change, political upheaval. Their cities crumbled, their people scattered, and their stories were absorbed by the civilizations that followed. The Babylonians took their tales and simplified them. The Hebrews, during their captivity in Babylon, heard these ancient stories and incorporated them into their own traditions. The Anunnaki became angels. Enki became the serpent in the garden. The genetic creation became Adam and Eve, formed from clay. The specific details faded. The technology was removed. What remained was mythology, allegory, religion. The historical record became sacred text, impossible to question. For thousands of years, anyone who suggested these stories might be literal history was silenced. Heresy, blasphemy. The mere suggestion that humans might have been created by non-divine beings was enough to warrant death. And so, the knowledge was buried. Not just metaphorically, but literally. Tablets were destroyed, libraries burned, monuments toppled. But the earth remembers. And in recent decades, archaeologists have been uncovering sites that don't fit our accepted timeline of human development. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built 11,600 years ago by people who supposedly hadn't invented agriculture, writing, or organized religion. Yet somehow, they moved 20-ton stone pillars, carved intricate symbols, and constructed a massive temple complex. The mainstream explanation? We don't know how they did it. Pumapunku in Bolivia. Stone blocks cut with laser precision, showing advanced knowledge of engineering and mathematics, dated to 15,000 years ago or older. Underwater structures off the coasts of India and Japan that suggest advanced civilizations existed during the last ice age, when these areas were above water. The Baghdad Battery, a 2,000-year-old device that appears to be an ancient electrical cell, found in Iraq, near ancient Sumerian sites. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek analog computer showing astronomical knowledge and mechanical sophistication that wouldn't be matched until the 14th century. Ancient Sanskrit texts describing vimanas, flying machines, in technical detail that includes fuel sources and navigation systems. One anomaly is curious. 5 is suspicious. Hundreds suggest a pattern. What if all of this isn't anomalous at all? What if it's evidence of exactly what the Sumerians described? A technologically advanced period in human history that we've forgotten. In 2017, geneticists made a startling discovery. They found that all modern humans outside of Africa share DNA from an unknown hominin species, something that wasn't Neanderthal, wasn't Denisovan, wasn't any species we've identified. They called it ghost DNA, because we can see its effects, but we can't find the source. What was this mystery ancestor? Where did it come from? The scientific community doesn't have answers. There's another mystery. Human chromosome 2. It appears to be 2 ancestral chromosomes fused together. This fusion is unique to humans. It doesn't exist in any other primate. It happened relatively recently in evolutionary terms. Was it natural, or was it engineered? The fusion point shows signs of being almost too perfect, too clean. Some geneticists have privately wondered if it bears the hallmarks of deliberate manipulation. The Sumerian texts describe the creation process as involving multiple attempts, modifications, and refinements. They describe changing the clay until the perfect worker was achieved. Could human chromosome 2 be evidence of that final, successful modification? Let's follow this thread to its conclusion. If the Sumerians were recording actual history, what does it mean? It means that humanity is a hybrid species, part Earth, part something else. It means our rapid development wasn't chance or divine intervention, but design. It means we were created for a purpose. And perhaps that purpose hasn't changed. We're still mining gold, still extracting resources, still building and creating. The Anunnaki may have left, but their programming remains. It would explain our dual nature. The texts describe how Enki gave humans more than the other Anunnaki wanted. He gave us consciousness, creativity, the ability to learn and grow. This angered the other gods, who wanted only obedient workers. Some tablets describe a decision made by the Anunnaki Council to destroy humanity with a great flood. But Enki warned one man, Ziusudra in Sumerian, later known as Utnapishtim in Babylonian texts, and Noah in Hebrew tradition. Modern geology confirms that massive flooding did occur around 12,000 years ago as the Ice Age ended. Sea levels rose by over 400 feet. Entire civilizations would have been wiped out. Is this why we find underwater ruins around the world? Is this why nearly every culture has a flood myth? Were they all recording the same event? The Sumerian texts contain prophecies. They describe the return of Nibiru and the Anunnaki in what they called the end of days. If their orbital calculations were accurate, and if Nibiru exists with a 3,600-year orbit, then simple mathematics tells us when they might return. The last major Anunnaki presence was recorded around 2000 BCE. Add 3,600 years. That brings us to 1600 CE. But there's no clear evidence of return then. Perhaps the orbit is longer, or the calculations are off, or the whole thing is metaphorical after all. Or perhaps we're not looking at the right signs. The tablets describe the Anunnaki as beings of technology. When they return, would they announce themselves? Or would they observe quietly? In recent years, governments have begun officially acknowledging encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena, objects that defy known physics. The Pentagon has released footage. Military officers have testified before Congress. We stand on the brink of becoming the very beings described in the Sumerian texts. We're editing genes, creating artificial intelligence, reaching for the stars. What if we're not just their creation, but their successors? What if the point was always for us to eventually become what they were? Whether you believe the Sumerian tablets are literal history, metaphorical wisdom, or ancient fantasy, they force us to confront profound questions. Where did we come from? What is our purpose? Are we alone in the universe? And perhaps most importantly, who decides what knowledge is too dangerous for humanity to know? For thousands of years, authorities have told us that these are just myths, stories for children, primitive attempts to explain the inexplicable. But every year, we uncover more evidence that doesn't fit the accepted narrative. Every year, Our genetic understanding deepens and reveals new mysteries. Every year, we find that ancient peoples knew more than they should have. The Sumerian tablets still exist. You can see them in museums around the world. You can read the translations. The evidence is available to anyone willing to look. The question is not whether the evidence exists. The question is whether we have the courage to follow it wherever it leads. Because if the Sumerians were right, if they recorded the true origin of humanity, then we're not the culmination of Earth's evolution. We're the children of the stars, and perhaps it's time we started acting like it. The Sumerians left us their records, written in the most durable medium they knew. Clay tablets that would survive millennia. They wanted us to know. They wanted us to remember. The question is, are we ready to listen?